Hi friends, living in a pandemic has surely taught us the value of life and how uncertain this world is. It has been proven time and again that nothing is impossible, and there have been innumerable instances in human history that have been shocking and scary to live in. So, today I'll be talking about 8 of the worst times to be alive. The Partition of India. Undoubtedly, it goes without saying that the partition of India and Pakistan was quite a horrible experience for everyone involved back then. It was the largest case of migration in human history at that time. Many might think that getting freedom and independence would have been the most delightful experience, but no, it involved a lot of violence, riots, bloodshed, and trains full of deceased people to get that independence. More than 1 million lives were lost, with a huge price that both these nations had to pay for the well deserved freedom that they should have got long before. 536 AD. Can you imagine living for almost 1.5 years with not a single day of sunlight and perpetual darkness? That is exactly what happened in 536 AD. There were horrific volcanic eruptions and unbearable cold winters that prevailed for almost 18 months. People lost their lives due to starvation and hypothermia as there was no rain or sunlight to grow food crops or fodder. There was a permanent eclipse over the sun with super foggy skies. To make this natural catastrophe even more worse, there were worldwide conflicts and political turmoil. Bloodless Revolution. You might be thinking by the name Bloodless that this revolution was a non violent and very peaceful one, which is absolutely wrong. In the 17th century, the Catholic Rebellion, also called the Bloodless Revolution, saw the persecution of countless people who followed the Catholic faith. It's called bloodless because apparently there were only two minor conflicts that happened during the Bloodless Revolution compared to other revolutions. Surely this was an awful time to be alive, and if you were a Catholic person living in Britain. The World Wars. Our history textbooks are filled with never ending content on World War One and 2. These wars were bad in every way, as not only did people lose their lives unnecessarily, but also it divided humanity even more. Many young men who had their whole lives ahead of them were executed left, right, and center and were forced to join the army, leaving behind their young families, wife, and children to never return. The only silver lining to this story was that, as all men were working in the army, women were added to the workforce and this increased female participation in employment. But irrespective of anything, no one really wins a war as millions lost their lives or their loved ones. Being a minor in ancient Rome. This is a dark truth, but slavery was very normal in the olden days. Rome was no stranger to slavery. Being a slave was already horrible, but it was worse if you worked in a mine. The working conditions were disgusting with contagious diseases all around the place. The workers were treated horrifically and were basically considered as beasts of labor rather than human beings. Mostly prisoners of war were taken as slaves to work in mines, as it was the worst occupation where you might receive daily beatings and might also be thrown in a pit with wild animals. The Senguko Period. The Sengoku period reshaped Japanese history. It led to the creation of the bravest and most fierce Japanese samurais. But there was constant war and conflict. It was pretty much a part of the daily routine of Japanese villagers to witness a war or actually become a part of the war. The wars were caused mainly because of ownership of territory. Law and order didn't exist, and the feudal system of Japan collapsed. This went on for almost 150 years from 1467 to 1615. The Spanish flu. By now, we know really well that a pandemic is one of the worst possible things to happen. But we are lucky in many ways too, as we have more advanced technology, more medical knowledge, and even more infrastructure and funding. But this wasn't the case during the Spanish flu or the great influenza epidemic. It is considered as the deadliest pandemic in history, with a way higher mortality rate than the pandemic we are facing today. More than 50 million people lost their lives. It lasted from February 1918 to April 1920 and had four waves. Despite there being no antibiotics, no medications, no intensive care units, no machines, and no mechanical ventilation, yet somehow this pandemic ended within 2 years. The Holocaust. I don't think so there could have been a worse time in history than being a Jew in Germany. The Holocaust might have ended in 1945, but its effects and pain last even till this day. There might have never been a more shameful time for humanity than the Holocaust. For some reason, an evil man decided to carry out a so called ethnic cleansing and executed more than 6 million Jews just for his sadistic pleasure. They all had value and were someone's wife, daughter, son, husband, and father. Not just gas chamber executions or concentration camps were bad, to say the least, but also there were inhumane experiments carried out, not even sparing infants. Not just Jews, but also people with disabilities or homosexual people were also persecuted. Anne Frank, a beautiful Jewish girl with huge dreams, was hiding with her family during the Holocaust period. Someone betrayed her family, and everyone in her family except her father lost their lives. By listening to these stories, I hope you felt grateful about your own life. One should cherish the present because you never know what the future holds. So, friends, I hope you liked the video. For more such videos, please like, share, subscribe, click the bell icon, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.